What's up everyone, Darcblade here with another Hunter's Guide to Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. In this video, we're going to be bringing you another endgame build, this time for the Insect Glaive. Now what is an endgame build? Well, it's a build that is constructed from some of the rarest armor, weaponry and decorations in the game. They also feature talismans as well as Krios crafting. However, when it comes to the Krios crafting, it doesn't feature armor that has been augmented to contain only rare skills. So whilst it may have a point or two in say attack boost or crit boost or something like that, the entire armor set and build is not focused on Krios crafting whatsoever. Now when it comes to the Insect Glaive, it's a strong weapon in Sunbreak. It has multiple playstyles, whether you enjoy the ground based combat, the Kinsect focused playstyle or the aerial combat. There is a lot to satisfy players out there. For me personally, I prefer the airborne playstyle, and so with that I present to you the Intrepid Hard Insect Glaive build. Although this build can work with any playstyle at the end of the day, this build is aimed to reduce damage and potentially allowing us to continue the fight when normally we would be knocked out of the air. So for this build you'll need the Flaming Espinas Brain, the Golden Loom Mail, the Flaming Espinas Grips, the Omnio Ataobi, the Flaming Espinas Heals. For your Petalace, this is down to personal preference. Go with the Absolute Petalace for extra health or the Demon Petalace for extra damage. And then with your Talisman, you want to get a Talisman that has at least Agitator level 2 on it, whether that's through decorations or the skill being on the actual Talisman itself. Extra decoration slots on the Talisman as well is also welcome. Now when it comes to the weapon, you have a lot available to you. This is an elemental build at its heart, so you can get away with using any weapon that has an element on it, but try to use a weapon that has a decent amount of purple sharpness and that has a decent selection of decoration slots as well as rampage slots attached to it. Having a Kinsect level at 14 or above is also definitely welcome. When it comes to the Krios crafting on the weapon, you will have a lot of choices here. In all honesty, none of them are absolutely essential, as in none of them shine above the others in all honesty. Personally, I would go with increasing the Rampage slot upgrade if you can, followed by Raw Attack, Handicraft, Affinity, and then increased elemental damage. As for the Rampage decorations, depending on what you have available to you, either go for the Daora's Soul, Elemental Bane, or one of the anti-species decorations. As for your Kinsect, these I say are down to personal preference. I personally like to go with Assist Kinsects. Now speaking of decorations, you've got a fair few to play around with, and there are a lot of optional ones here, so you can change them around if you wish. I've first gone for Attack Jewels to max out attack boost, Steadfast Jewels to max out stun resistance. These in all honesty are optional decorations. I've then gone for Tenderizer Jewels to max out weakness exploit, Cornerstone Jewels to max out defiance, Critical Jewels to max out crit boost, Brace Jewels for a few points in flinch free. Again, these are optional. I've then gone for Wirebug Jewels to max out Wirebug Whisperer, and then Dragon Jewels to max out Dragon Attack. Of course, if you were using a different weapon with a different element, you'd replace these Dragon Jewels to match whatever new element you were using. So if you've done what I've done here, you'll have a build with a raw attack of 408, this will be higher when certain buffs are active. You'll have a dragon rating of 32, remember if you're using a different weapon with a different element, you'd replace this dragon attack to match whatever new element you're using. You'll then have 0% base affinity, but this can be 65% when you take into account both weakness exploit and the agitator skill, and you'll have a strong defense of 754 that is strong against fire and ice, but is unfortunately weak to the other elements, especially water. As for the switch skills, these are down to personal preference depending on how you like to play the Insect Glaive. So when it comes to the skills, first of all you'll have attack boost at level 7, increasing the raw damage of this build, and at level 4 or above it also grants us a percentage bonus to our raw attack. You'll then have Agitator at level 5, which is a skill that kicks in whenever a monster becomes enraged. When this is the case, we'll gain increased raw attack as well as affinity. You'll then have Dragon Attack at level 5, increasing the dragon rating and thus the dragon damage of this build. Like I said, if you're using a different weapon with a different element, you replace this Dragon Attack to match whatever new element you are using. You'll then have Defiance at level 5. Defiance is another skill that kicks in whenever a monster becomes enraged. When this is the case, you'll gain increased quality of life and defenses. You'll be immune to all monster roars, for example, wind effects, as well as tremors. You also get a bonus 30 defense added to your build. Anyway, you'll then have Critical Boost at level 3, increases the damage of our attacks when they crit a monster, but only applies to the raw portion of an attack, not the elemental portion. You'll then have Weakness Exploit at level 3, increasing our affinity by 50% when we're attacking monster weak points. You'll then have Razor Sharp at level 3, that prevents our weapon from losing sharpness 50% of the time. You'll then have Spare Shot at level 3, which is a byproduct of the armor we're using. This is a bowgun and bow skill, so it's not needed on this build whatsoever. You'll then have Divine Blessing at level 3, which is a skill that gives us a 50% chance at taking reduced damage should we take a hit from a monster, adding to our survivability. You'll then have stun resistance at level 3, which prevents all stun effects on our hunter. You'll then have Wirebug Whisperer at level 3, which increases how quickly our Wirebugs will come off cooldown, as well as how long we can hold additional Wirebugs, allowing us to use our Silkbind attacks more often. You'll then have Burst at level 3, which used to be called Chain Crit. Burst is a skill that when we continuously attack a monster, will gain increased raw attack and elemental attack. You'll then have Counter Strike at level 2, a byproduct of the armor we're using, but temporarily increases our attack power after being knocked back by a monster. You'll then have Spirit Bird Call at level 1, which allows random Spirit Birds to come to our hunter instead of our hunter going to look for them. This doesn't apply to arena quests, and it just kind of reduces the need to go out of your way to find Spirit Birds whilst you're on a hunt. You'll then have Intrepid Heart at level 2, which is the whole reason for this build. Intrepid Heart is a skill that puts a blue gauge above our health bar. This gauge will fill up as we gradually attack a monster. Once full, it will protect our hunter, as should we take a hit, the damage reaction will be negated. We'll also take reduced damage, and on top of that, an explosion will detonate on our hunter, damaging the monster. Now this, combined with Divine Blessing as well as Defiance, are our main defensive skills with this build. As with the Insect Glaive, when you become airborne, there is sometimes not a lot you can do to get out of the way of incoming attacks. Intrepid Heart allows us to shrug off that attack should we take a hit, even if we're airborne, allowing us to continue our assault when we're on a hunt. You'll then have Adrenaline Rush at level 1. Adrenaline Rush is a skill that when we perfectly evade a monster, will gain a temporary raw attack boost. And then finally you'll have Embolden at level 1, which is a skill that reduces how long it takes for our hunter to enrage a monster, but by doing so, it will also increase the invincibility frames when we dodge, as well as increase our defense slightly. So there we have it, those are all the major skills to this Intrepid Heart Insect Glaive build. But let's quickly move on to talk about the Krios Crafting. Now like I said, this build doesn't feature the Krios Crafting at its absolute rarest. So for the Flaming Espinasse Brain, I've simply got a tier 1 decoration slot added to this armor piece. For the Golden Loon Mail, I've simply got another tier 1 decoration slot. For the Flaming Espinasse Grips, again we've got an additional tier 1 decoration slot as well as a point in the Spirit Bird Core skill. For the Omnio Ateobi, I've got a point in the Burst skill. And then finally for the Flaming Espinasse Heels, I've got a tier 2 decoration slot upgrade as well as an additional tier 1 decoration slot. We also have a point in the Spirit Bird Call skill, which to be honest is absolutely wasted because we already have this skill elsewhere on the build. But regardless, it's not the rarest of skills, and like I've said in previous builds, most of the time I go for slot upgrades rather than actual skills, as it allows for more customization. But every build out there has various pros and cons. No build is absolutely perfect. Even these endgame builds are not perfect. When it comes to this Intrepid Heart Insect Glaive build, its biggest pro is its survivability. Thanks to Defiance, Divine Blessing, and of course the Intrepid Heart, we're able to survive hunts, prevent knockback, and reduce damage against our hunter. On top of that, this build's next pro is its damage output. It focuses on raw attack more than elemental attack, but so long as you're taking into account a monster's elemental weakness, you should still be able to bring down monsters very quickly with this build. And of course the other pro for this build is that the skills synergize well with one another. Embolden, Defiance, as well as Agitator, they all synergize well with one another, adding to our defense and offense. But of course there are cons. One of the biggest cons for this build is unfortunately it contains some of the rarest decorations in the game, and so not everyone may have access to what is shown here. And the other con is there may be times, especially depending on what weapon you are using, that you can experience sharpness issues. Razor Sharp definitely does help maintain our sharpness, but it's still something to be aware of. So there we have it, that is the Intrepid Heart Insect Glaive build. A very comfy build that has DPS aspects and survival aspects. The whole Intrepid Heart mechanic is a welcome addition with this build, allowing us to potentially shrug off attacks that would knock us out of the air whilst we're performing our airborne combos. It can still bring down monsters quickly, and for me it's been one of the more enjoyable Insect Glaive builds out there. But what are your thoughts? Please leave a comment down below, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you the Intrepid Heart Insect Glaive build for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.